For many years, developers of large projects have been pressured to bridge the gap between their construction workforce and the city's population. For community advocates, that's a matter of economic justice, especially for workers left behind, women and people of color. But amid the current surge in new construction, diversity could also provide some relief from a tight labor market, as well as provide quality workers. To tell us about efforts of developers at Millennium Partners are an apprentice electrician, Sophia Shepard, and a principal from MP Boston, Kathleen MacNeil. Thank you both very much for being with us. I want to start with Kathleen MacNeil. Developers, they've been getting this message for a long time, a little more pressure this time. You've got a big project at Winthrop Center that's going on, and you're doing something different. So what exactly is that?
Yeah, Chris, I've been in the business for 30 years, and there's always been construction workforce goals. I think the difference, and you mentioned it, the tight labor market, is that people have to look at a different way to bring other community members, folks that live in the city of Boston, make sure they have an opportunity at this construction boom. So what we did is we actually engaged with some members of the community, and that was Bill Moran and several young black men that are mentors working with him. They went into the community and they actually solicited and found young people who needed good paying jobs. And that was the start of something that's very different than just advertising that you have jobs or telling people, go sign up at the union.
Sophia, lots of people need good jobs. Maybe you even had one before, but you decided to go into a different field. So why did you do that?
I did it because it was something different. It was a challenge, something I've never done, and I love challenges. I met Bill Moran at a breakfast spot one morning, and he brought up the opportunity, and I just was, willing to do it.
Now, electricians, people say, well, that's sort of routine. What's so interesting about being an electrician?
It's dangerous, and everyone cannot do it. That's what I love about it.
And how have you been learning to do this exactly?
I go to school once a week, and I learn on the job 4 days out of the week.
Now, where you're going on the job, maybe you should tell our viewers about that, because this is a landmark in the skyline, even though it's not finished yet.
I'm currently at 1 Dalton Street, where the Four Seasons will be. It's really cool. There's about 63 floors. I'm on the 60th floor right now, so I get a great view in the morning.
Kathleen, what about the advantages of having a more diverse workforce? I mean, if you're a developer or a contractor, what's the plus?
Well, I think studies have proven that a more diverse workplace ends up in more diverse cultures solving problems differently instead of always looking at things the same way. I like to use an example that doesn't necessarily have to do with the color of people's skin, but Suffolk Construction often employs not only engineers, but they take people from business school. And when I first started working with Suffolk, I thought, oh my goodness, this young person can't even read a set of blueprints. Why do I want them on my job? But lo and behold, they brought the aspect of looking at a profit and loss statement and understanding a business strategic plan. So there's an example of how diversity adds to a project. And it's no different in the workplace. Women might have more manual dexterity. They might have more attention to detail. And I'm not trying to point out necessarily differences between men and women. I'm trying to point out that all of us have differences, and together we're going to bring a richer environment to wherever we work. So I'm very excited about that.
You might have one corporate culture at MP Boston, but you've got to deal with all these contractors and subcontractors. They have cultures too, so how do you get them to change a bit?
Oh, they absolutely have cultures. And a lot of people in the built environment, in construction and architecture and real estate, got into the field because of their families, right? It was my dad's business. And I think that that's been one of the challenges to diversify, is that it tends to be fed from within. So to go outside of that circle and to bring other folks in, and people like Sophia showing some new energy, she really is going to be an example that the world is bigger than what we used to think of as our little group of subcontractors that we use.
Sophia, walking around town, I think the workforces are more diverse racially nowadays, but I still think it's mainly guys in hard hats. I mean, what's it like for you working with people like that?
I love it because guys, they're willing to help you with everything. But it is challenging because there's a lot of physical things that is, it's harder for a woman to do. But the guys are there, they will help you. But I love it. Guys are just
What's the
helpful.
hardest part of doing this work, for you at least?
The hardest part would be childcare. I'm a single mom, so, daycare doesn't start until about 7:30 most places. I have to be at work at 6:30, so it's really tough getting my daughter to school, things like that.
Kathleen, what about that? Because when you're hiring men, whether they're married with kids or single, you never hear about this. But with women, you're going to hear it. So
You're going to hear it, and it's not to say that men nowadays aren't responsible for childcare. They are. So I think in a way, it's an industry problem. I think the unions are stepping up. They're taking some initiatives. We on the project are looking at some opportunities to talk to daycare providers out in the neighborhoods to see if there's enough that would open at 5 a.m. There's a group called the Women's Trade Policy Group, and they are actually lobbying legislature to try to get more public sources of daycare that can open early. And also the issue of childcare workers also getting paid a better wage so that it's more attractive for people to go into that industry. So there's a whole host of issues
a whole
with
chain.
childcare.
This has been in news. We're talking with Apprentice electrician Sophia Shepard and from MP Boston, Kathleen MacNeil. Sophia, what about the things you like about being an electrician? Is there anything particular that you could talk to? Any moment on the job you say, "Oh, this is great"?
I would say just learning new things. And at first, when you look at something, you're like, wow, like, I can't do that. In your mind, of course, you don't say it out loud. And then once you learn it, the first few times, you're a little shaky about it. And then eventually you become like a pro. And it's pretty cool once you become great at what you're doing.
Now, another thing I can recall, because I had a summer job once when I had to put certain wires into certain places, and there were moments when I had a hard time getting that right. I know it sounds pretty simple, but you got to keep your eye on these simple things all the time.
Definitely. You have to stay aware because not only your life is at risk, everyone around you. And it's really dangerous, so you have to pay attention. And if you are not aware of what you're doing, you have to always ask questions. Even if you think it's a dumb question, you have to ask.
This has to do with equipment. People tell you to wear something cumbersome, and you have to just do what they tell you, right?
Yes, most of the time.
Kathleen, what about the ripple effect of this? Because I know Winthrop Center is a big project, but it is still just one project. You're one developer with partners, but what about beyond that?
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Working with Bill Moran and his group, he is sponsoring a mentorship program. So he's in the community, he's soliciting young men and women that are interested in the construction jobs, helping them interface with the unions, in particular, what I call the licensed unions. So unions where you actually will end up carrying a license. That's something you will have for lifetime. And then once he introduces them to the unions, we have worked with him to do preparatory classes because many of the licensed trade you have to pass an exam before you can get into the unions. So that's been very exciting and very successful. And then once they're in the unions, he doesn't walk away. Those mentors stay with people like Sophia through generally most of the trades are 4 years of apprenticeship. So Sophia is now mentoring the next class. And so the idea is to build a sustainable program that won't just be available for Winthrop Center, but will be available for several projects going forward. And I could imagine it going into things like operating these buildings, right? There's security people, there's technicians, there's facilities managers. There's a whole host of jobs that we've seen time and again not be available to the residents right in our backyard.
Sophia, what do you see in your field? Because, construction work is great while the construction economy is booming, but even beyond that, what do you see?
What do you mean
You think
by
there are
that?
good opportunities out there? Because you don't have to be working on a construction project. You can get other jobs doing electrical work too, I imagine, right?
Yes, there's a lot of opportunity, especially right now. Everything is going up, not only in Boston. I've heard that Worcester is actually advancing everything out there. So it's a lot of opportunity in the electrical field, in my opinion, and side work as well, you know.
And I don't think Sophia even realizes it, but her and I have spoken about the opportunities in management. You know, when it gets too cold and she decides I've had enough of working outdoors, the opportunities to do some design work, to do project management, to do the engineering side is a whole nother field that could be open to her.
Thank you both very much, Kathleen MacNeil and Sophia Shepard.
Thank you.